Hey guys, I'm going to share with you guys the story of my entire life. Everything that I can remember since I was younger. So the first bits of memory I have are, I don't know if anyone can remember from like 0 to 7 years old. I don't really remember that, but the first bits of memory I have is from when I was probably 7 or 8 years old. And I had this strong love for stuffed animals. I had a stuffed bear and a stuffed monkey. And my love for stuffed animals was so big. And I think partially the reason for that is because when I was younger, let's say between the ages of like 8 and 15 or 16, I didn't really have many friends. So I was kind of a loner, I would say, at those ages. And throughout that period, when I was like 12 or 13, my parents were separated, and my brother kind of had his own friends. He's a couple of years older than I am, so he had his own life going on. And I was basically just kind of like I was just very quiet, and I grew a strong bond with my stuffed animals, which is kind of crazy because they were like the only friends that I thought I could trust at that time. And so that's the first memory I have. When I was younger, I was the kind of guy that basically sat at lunch by himself, very quiet, very reserved, like very, kept to myself. That's not really my personality now these days, but this is who I was like growing up. All the way up until probably like 16, 17, even 18 years old, I was just super quiet, super reserved. And then when I was 18, my dad and I moved to Boca Raton, Florida, which is a wonderful place, excellent place. If you haven't been there, it's beautiful. And I kind of like started a new life, maybe like kind of like a new identity for myself. My mom and my brother stayed back in New York. And so at that time I was kind of trying to basically start my life over again, because the first 18 years I was I swear that's all I can remember is just me liking stuffed animals and not having any friends. And then, so when I was 18, I moved to Florida with my dad for about 1.5 years. And I found a girlfriend there who I really cared about at the time. Like, it was like, young love, let's call it, 18, 19 years old. It was my first like serious relationship. And about 1.5 years goes by in Boca Raton, Florida. I was having a good time. I really liked it there. And my dad said, we have to move back to New York. I lost my job, blah, blah, blah. And the reason why we moved to New York is because my dad actually lost his job in New York. And he wanted to move to Florida just to kind of shake up his life. He liked Florida. It was warm. He hates cold weather, etc. All the reasons why I like Florida as well. And so 1.5 years went by, and he got his job back in New York. So he's like, we're going to have to move back. And at that time, my parents got back together. And so I guess he missed my mother as well. So we went back to New York. I was really upset because I had started a whole new life in Florida, and I felt good about it. So I said to myself, like, I need to find a way to get back to Florida. Like, I have a very obsessive personality, and I really wanted to live in Florida. I like the warmth, and it's just so different than New York. The lifestyle is different. It's slower. You have more space. That's really important for me as well. So basically, we went back to New York, and I was figuring out ways. I was like, how can I move back to Florida? I knew there was like some cheap apartments in Florida, like $50,000, $75,000, $100,000. You can buy like a pretty decent apartment in Florida. So I was like, I need to save as much money as possible. So I started Googling and how can I make money fast? How can I do it fast? Some of you guys might be guessing this is when I got into poker, but it's not. It is not. So I read and I saw that being a waiter or a bartender, you can get money fast. But to be a bartender, you needed to go through like bar classes and all these things. And for me, I just wanted to do it immediately. I was like, I don't want to wait. I just want to start saving money right now. And I was reading like being a waiter, you could make like $150, $200 a night on busy nights and stuff. So for me, that was like fucking, that was a lot of money in my mind at that time. But my issue was I was really shy, and being a waiter is very intimidating. Like you have to go up and talk to people you don't know and take orders from them and greet new customers. And this was a very busy restaurant that I ended up working at. So this was the first thing that really changed my life. I started working at TGIF Fridays in Manhasset, New York. It's a really big, busy location for that restaurant. You get like, wow, it was extremely busy. Huge restaurant. If anybody lives in New York or has been there in Manhasset, New York, TGIF Fridays, they know what I'm talking about. And so I decided to confront my fears. I was like, what's more important to me? Should I just continue to be shy and scared? Or should I do anything it takes to get myself back to Florida where I love my lifestyle there? I really liked it. So I said, you know what? I'm going to be a waiter. And it ended up being the best decision I've ever made in that time in my life. And the reason being is that there was like 40 other waiters, at this restaurant. So I met all these people that were the same age as I was. And I made all these new friends. And like, for me, like making friends was kind of a difficult thing at this point in my life. So I made all these new friends and I met all these new people. And it was very uplifting. I was like, wow, I finally felt like I belonged. I was like, wow, this is cool. Like, you know, these guys actually like me and I like them. Like they're cool people. And throughout this time, let's fast forward about a year. My girlfriend and I broke up because she was wanting me to move to Florida. I told her I would move to Florida. I was planning on doing it. I was saving money. I was basically not spending anything. I was saving all my money. I was going to move to Florida. And it turned out like she was nagging me in such a way that I didn't really appreciate. I didn't like it. I felt like I was pressured. Like I told her I was going to come to New York, but she had told me like, you need to come now, like blah, blah, blah. And like, it was just a lot of pressure. So we had to break up at that point. But throughout that same time we were breaking up, I was starting to really enjoy my life in New York, which I'd never done in the past. So I started hanging out more with my friends from work, and we started playing poker with each other after work. Like we had like some home games and stuff. And I was like, and for the first time, I kind of was like, I feel kind of good in New York. I don't know. I have friends here. I have a lot of connections. And I was feeling like maybe I shouldn't go back to Florida. But it was always in the back of my mind. I was like, this place, I love this place. It didn't have to do with my girlfriend being there or my ex-girlfriend being there. It had more so to do that I thought it was just a great place to live, really. And for me, the space is important. It's very spacious kind of land over there. You get to, like, it's not like all skyrise, you know, skyscrapers and people on top of each other and like everyone, like thousands of people on sidewalks and stuff. Everyone has their own space, and it's a slower kind of lifestyle. So I wanted to move back there, but at the same time, I was actually enjoying now. I was like, I'm playing poker with these guys from Fridays. I ended up working at TGIF Fridays for about 3 years. About 3 years, I was a waiter at TGIF Fridays, where I kind of like burst out of my bubble. I stopped being as shy as I used to be. And from there, one of my first cousins, who's also one of my best friends, actually wanted to move to Florida too. And so this brought about like this crazy, like it brought the feelings back of me wanting to move back to Florida. So I was like, I had kind of dropped that a little bit, because like I was like, I wanted to go back, but then I was like, oh, I really like New York now. It's kind of cool. And so I kind of dropped that until my cousin was like, showed interest in moving to Florida as well. And I was like, whoa. I was like, I want to move there too, man. Like, life is fucking awesome over there. Like, it's great. We had this huge idealization about what it feels like to live in Florida, and not any part of Florida, South Florida, Boca Raton, West Palm Beach area. So we started talking and planning, and we were like, yeah, we can do it. Let's do it. Let's move there. And we were going to move there together, but I was thinking, like, what am I going to do for a living? But you know what? I already had, in the last 3 years, I was making about $2,500 a month working at TGI Fridays. And after 3 or 3.5 years I worked there, I saved like $50,000 or $60,000, which is pretty wild. Because I was living at home, I was eating my mom's food. Like, I wasn't spending anything, literally nothing. Like, and I saved like $50,000, $60,000 in a few years, and I was like, okay, this is cool. Like, I can finally buy my apartment in Florida if I wanted to now. I started looking. Luckily, my dad convinced me to just rent. He's like, just rent first, because you might not know, like, you might go back there and you might not remember it the same way. Like, you might have had this idealization kind of forming, and which I did definitely a little bit. So anyways, we decided to rent. My first cousin and I moved there. We moved back there. I was 21 or 22. And he was younger. He was like 20 and or 19. And so we moved there together. We got an apartment in Delray Beach, about an hour north of Miami. And we really liked it at first. Everything was great. Well, I skipped a part of the story, actually. I'm going to rewind just a little bit here. So when I was working at TGI Fridays, the last few months, I had started playing online poker, which is what I do for a living now. And I was really skeptical at first. Like, I didn't know if I was gonna play online poker for a living, or like if it was rigged, or like what was going on. I was really confused. But we were playing like cash games, live cash games, me and my friends. Like, after work, we would get home from work at 12, we would go to my friend's house, we would play until like 6:30 in the morning, and then I would go home about 5 or 6 in the morning most nights. And so we played like almost every night. We played a lot. And then one of my friends stopped showing up. I was like, dude, like, what's going on? Like, why are you not coming anymore? He's like, man, he's like, I discovered online poker. I'm like playing this online poker now, and it's so fucking awesome. You can play so many more hands and blah, blah, blah. So that's what I started doing. He kind of had to convince me, because I was like, online poker? I was like, how do you know it's not rigged and like this and that? And he's like, dude, he's like, if it's rigged in my favor because I'm winning. I was like, all right. And then he was like, why don't you throw in $50 and give it a shot? I was like, okay, yeah, fuck it. Let me put in $50, see what happens. And that's when I started playing online poker. I started playing $50 six max games. For those of you who don't know poker, this next minute is going to be a little bit boring for you. But I started playing like $50 games. And obviously I started at like $10 games. I built up like a bankroll with like $300, $400, $500, and I immediately started playing $50 games. I had terrible bankroll management. So I started playing these games, and I started winning. I was winning. I didn't even need to study. I guess the games were so soft back then. This is probably, we're talking like 9 or 10 years ago. The games were really soft, so I started winning. And I'm thinking to myself, like, this is cool. Like, this is fucking awesome. So now every time I'm going to work at TGI Fridays. And then I am just like counting down the seconds until I can get home and play online poker, because I loved it so much. A few months goes by, fast forward. I had a couple of months playing online poker where I made like $2,000 a month. And I was like, whoa, I can quit my job and maybe play online poker for a living. So that's exactly what I did. I didn't waste another second, because I love this game. I went to my job. I put in my 2 weeks notice. And I thought this would work out well for me too, because me and my cousin were planning to move to Florida together. So I was like, maybe I can play online poker there. That's fucking awesome. Maybe I can have a waitering job. If things go bad, I have $50,000, $60,000 in the bank. So it doesn't even, it's perfect, right? So we moved there, and from what I recall, like the first couple months I'm playing online poker and I'm losing. And obviously at that point, I don't understand variance with poker. I'm losing and I can't really figure out why. Obviously I don't know at that point. Like it's just standard variance probably hitting me. And I'm like, okay, obviously I have to go get a job. I get a job at Applebee's. If you live in America, you know what Applebee's is. It's like a kind of like competition for Fridays. So I got a job at Applebee's, but the thing was, it was so slow. I didn't take into account how much busier the New York Fridays was gonna be as compared to like a South Florida Applebee's. So at Fridays, I was making like $2,500 a month. At Applebee's, they couldn't even give me enough hours. I was making like $600 to $800 a month. Like I couldn't live. But I had all this money to fall back on, so I was like, this is shit. Like after like a month from Applebee's, I just quit. I was like, I can't do this shit anymore. I can't make $600 to $800 a month. It's just not gonna work. I can't live. So I had to quit the Applebee's job, and then I made some friends in Florida, and God, for like 6 months we were just partying. At least like 3 times a week. On Thursdays we had our place. We got the bottles. Fridays, Saturdays we would go out to either Miami or Fort Lauderdale, and we just did a lot of partying. And it was just like so much partying to the point where 6 months went by and I look at my bank account and I have like $11,000 left from like 55 or 60 grand, 50 grand, whatever it was. And I was like, oh fuck, I need to do something about this. Like I need to find a way to make money. Like I'm sitting here 6 months not working and just literally either partying or playing like PlayStation or not Xbox. We were playing PlayStation at that time. We were playing like basketball games and stuff and partying and just doing just a whole bunch of nothing basically. And then like when I was down to $11,000 in my bank account or something like that, I was like, maybe I'll just party more and forget about it. So I started partying a little bit more until the point I was down to like $6,000, $7,000, $8,000. I was like, this is fucked. I was like, I need to do something. I need to literally do something with my life here. And so that's when I got back into online poker. And it's funny, I actually tried to get back. If I remember correctly, this was November. What year was this? I don't remember. Maybe 2008. So I got back into online poker. And I did okay. I made like $1,500 in my first month. But then I hit this huge depression. Like I fell into this massive hole. Now that I remember it, like, yeah, my cousin's the only one that kind of knew it because he was living with me. I went into this massive depression where I was like so confused as to like what I want to do with my life. Who am I? Like, what the hell? Like, what am I doing? 22-year-old kid living in some small apartment in Delray Beach with my first cousin, and I had no idea what I want to do with my life, no college degree, just really confused. And like, I finally felt what it feels like to be like truly like depressed. Like every morning I woke up, I had this like massive pain just everywhere in my body, my chest, like just everything was hurting. I felt like physical symptoms. I was crying a lot. I was spending a lot of time alone. And I had just a few friends that I had in Florida that I went out with all the time. I was like begging them. I was like, guys, come over. Like, I just need someone to talk to. Like, I'm in a really bad place. And that lasted for quite a while. I want to say like at least 4 or 5 months of like, just like really like not feeling well. Like to the point of where I would call my grandmother just to talk to her. And I'm never a person to do that, like to call my grandmother just to have a conversation. So I started doing that just to hear like a familiar voice, and I was just, I don't know, I was just so confused and lost. And then so anyways, like in the midst of like all this depression, I was like, maybe I should just go back to New York and like go back with my family where it's a little bit more comfortable. Maybe that'll make me feel better. But then I promised my cousin that I would stay here with him and we're gonna split the rent, and that's the only way we moved to Florida. So I didn't really know what to do. So I basically laid in bed for like 4 months and just like felt sad the whole time. And my cousin knew something was up. He's like, what is going on, man? Like, are you all right? I'm like, no, I'm absolutely not okay. So I was begging him too, because he used to go over to his girlfriend's house and spend time at his girlfriend's house in Florida. And he slept there a lot. And I was like, please just come sleep here with her. Like, I just need your guys' company. Like, I just don't feel good. Like, I don't know what the fuck is going on. I just had no idea what was happening. But then I had a couple of panic attacks, like full-blown panic attacks. One of them, luckily my cousin was home. And for those who have actually had a panic attack, you know what I'm talking about. It's really fucked up. Like, so I'm laying in bed just like with my usual, just a lot of emotional pain that I just can't figure out why is happening. So I'm sitting in bed and all of a sudden, like, I get like a really shortness of breath. It feels like the walls are caving in. It was so fucked. Like, and I was like, I got up, like I felt like I was in a faint, like I was sweating. And like, I literally thought the world was like closing in on me. Like my brain was like fucking, I don't know what was, it was just the weirdest feeling ever. I like jump out of bed, I'm like sweating, I'm breathing. I get like, I'm really pale. I slam my door open. I go into my cousin's bedroom right next door. I'm like, dude, I'm like, what? And he's like, what's happening? I'm like, I don't know. And like, he just had to like talk me out of it. It took me like 30 minutes to kind of calm down from that. I don't know what it was rooted from. Probably just a lot of anxiety at that stage of my life. Probably me just putting a lot of pressure on myself about what the hell I was doing with my life, just super confused or whatever else. So anyways, another month goes by. I still don't feel that well. Feeling pretty shit actually at that time. But then like I started forcing myself to play poker again. But it's very difficult to play poker when you're in a kind of mindset like that. But I forced myself to play poker again. And luckily for me, then the first month I came back from that, I started playing some multi-table tournaments, MTTs, and I made $15,000 in 1 month. I won like a few MTTs, 4,000 or 5,000 here and there. So I made $15,000 in 1 month, and I started thinking, I was like, what if I can make this kind of money every month? Like, this is crazy. You know, at that time I was thinking like, I didn't realize variance. I was like, maybe I can make 15,000 every single month. This is amazing. But then at the same time, like, as soon as I stopped playing poker, I was immediately depressed again, right? I was super depressed and anxious again. And then when I got onto the tables and I started playing poker, I felt good again because I was so focused on the poker, I couldn't really focus on anything else. And so anyways, long story short, my cousin does agree to go back to New York with me. Let's call this like nine years ago. He says, yeah, he's like, I'm kind of like not feeling amazing here as well. Like, I don't mind going back to New York. It's fine. So we go back to New York. I continue playing poker. But obviously, I'm not making $15,000 a month anymore. I just didn't understand variance. I'm making like maybe $4,000 or $5,000 a month sometimes. Some months I would have like $10,000 months. I started playing heads up, sit and goes, $100 games. And because I saw on SharkScope that that's where everyone was making all the money, so I started playing those games. And then Black Friday hits. So when I got back to New York, it took a while for me to kind of feel normal again. I still felt like shit for a while. But poker was like my outlet for my depression and anxiety that I was going through like 8-9 years ago. And that's what kind of drove me. So what happened was Black Friday hit. So for those of you who don't play poker, Black Friday is when poker got banned in the USA and people had to move abroad to continue playing. And as soon as it happened, I was almost in shock. I was like, what is going on here? I couldn't believe it. I was like, I can't move to Canada. How the hell am I going to move to Canada by myself? I don't know anyone. How can I do that? How can I do that? How can I move to Canada by myself? So a couple of months goes by and I realized, I was like, my depression is coming back. I feel really anxious again. And I realized that it's probably because I'm not playing poker. Poker was like my medication. Like when I was playing poker, like my mind was so set on poker that I couldn't think of anything else. So that was huge for me at that time. So I was like, I need to find a way to continue playing poker. So eventually I made the decision to move abroad by myself, not knowing anybody. Moved in with a couple of poker players. They let me stay at their place for a month. And then after that, I found some people that wanted to move in with me and play poker. At that time, I was still playing $100 games. I was slowly going to move up the stakes in the future there. And then the first 4 years I was living in Canada, I made Supernova Elite. And for those of you who play poker or remember the Supernova Elite program, you know how difficult that is. But it was quite easy for me because for me, I saw poker as like this huge outlet. Like, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to play. And this is kind of going to, like, I feel good when I'm playing poker. I feel accomplished. Like, this is good. And so I basically obsessed and played like 60 to 80-hour weeks for 4 years straight, basically without doing too much else. But there was a lot of other things going on in there as well. Like, I did hang out a lot. In Canada, I did spend a lot of time with friends. We went out partying a lot. I ended up living in, like, at this point today, I was counting the other day, I think I lived in like 16 or 17 different apartments with like 12 different groups of roommates in like 5 different countries. So I've been around, and I've kind of experienced life as well, because there was times where I was playing 60, 80-hour weeks, and then the rest of the time I was just either spending time with friends, going out with friends on the weekends, doing whatever else. But the thing that got always sacrificed for me was TV. I never watched any TV. I was all about the experiences. But I used to be a big TV watcher when I was younger, and I still love TV, but I just cut it out of my life because I knew that it wasn't productive for me at that time. So I stopped watching TV. I started just experiencing life and just playing a lot of poker. And then eventually, about 3.5 years ago, I met my girlfriend that I'm with today. And at that time, I was going through like a really good transition because before I met her and before I started reading a lot of books, every time I was away from poker, let's say when I got back to visit New York or I was on a vacation, I always just felt uneasy. I was like, I need to play poker. Like, I felt lost. I was like, what am I doing? Like, not playing poker. This is crazy. You know, I just felt lost. So poker was kind of my way. Like, when I played poker, I felt like this is my medicine. This is my relaxation. So after I met my girlfriend Arancha, and we started spending a lot of time together, and during that time, I was already reading. Actually, I wasn't reading that many books yet. I started reading a couple books, I think, during that time. And I started changing my perspective on life and everything, really. And then shortly after, her and I moved to Prague. And in Prague is when I really started heavily reading. Started reading a lot of audiobooks on Audible. And like the first 4 or 5 books I read, I was like, this is fucking life-changing. Like, it was unbelievable. Like, it was like I had just gained like so much knowledge just reading these books. And I was so excited. I was so excited about reading them because it was like, I was like, God, this is like all this new information to read from these people that have wrote these books in a very structured way and shared all their thoughts and their experiences on life. And that ended up being like the biggest turning point in my life, probably. And so at that point in my life, not many people know this, and not unless you came to this far in the video, you'd probably not know it either. It was back in I want to say about 2.5 years ago. I was doing quite well playing poker, I had made a lot of money, but I actually lost more than half of my entire net worth at that time. And for those of you who play poker, it's because I was battling into the 1Ks at that time, and I ran $200,000 under EV. So my EV was 0, battling 1Ks, which is amazing playing regs. But I was $200,000 under EV, and at the same time, I got absolutely destroyed in the stock market. So this is something I don't think I ever told anybody about, so I'm sharing it here. So I lost over half of my net worth in a span of 6 months. And through reading books and through my girlfriend's support and stuff, like, I felt totally okay with it, surprisingly. It was a substantial amount of money, like a lot of money. And I was actually okay with it. And I got through that period through reading books and expanding my knowledge and my perception and gaining a stronger mindset, and like learning how to be just stronger in general, just be less kind of sensitive, let's call it, not letting little things bother me and things like that. And so just probably, like, I probably just recently got over that big hit to my net worth just a little while back, probably like 6 months ago or something. So that I had to rebuild out of that for a couple of years. But some of it was my mistake. Some of it I just ran bad. I just got unlucky. I got unlucky in the stock market too, but it was kind of my mistake. I invested in some things that I had no idea about. I was a little bit overconfident. So fast forward to today. Obviously, I'm missing pieces in this life story. If I told you my entire life story, it might take 3 hours. Somewhere in the life story, I meet Jason Philpott. We live together. This is before I met my girlfriend. We start Team 651, and Team 651 now almost has 100 players staked by us, and an incredible, incredible community. And everyone on 651, we're all so happy, and it honestly feels like a family. Like, we take vacations with each other sometimes, and we do fun things. For those who live in Toronto, we get together every now and again, and yeah, it's just so powerful, and just so grateful for everything that I have in my life right now, and all the friends that I have in my life, my girlfriend, everything. And I guess the moral of this story is, if you've gotten this far, give me a fuck yes in the comment section. Let me know you've gotten this far. I want to know who got this far. Let me know. And so I want to encourage everyone, like, if you're watching this, to gain life experiences. Like, you have to, I'm going to make a video just about life experiences, because it's so important to kind of live different experiences, because you find out so much more about yourself. Like, I fast forwarded the process of finding out about myself through throwing myself in the fire, moving to Canada by myself, meeting all these new people that I would have never met if I never made that decision. And reading all these books and kind of finding out more about myself through that as well. And all those things kind of made me who I am today, and I'm very appreciative of all those things. And for those people who kind of feel like they're stagnating, or they're kind of just like been in the same spot for years, just switch it up. Just move somewhere else. Go somewhere where you don't know anybody, and just kind of meet new people. And I met all these people. Like, I literally didn't know one single human in Canada, and I moved here when I was 23, I think. I think 23. And in 2011, so yeah, 23 or 24, I moved here, and I'm just wondering, like, what my life would have been like if I just took the safe kind of route all the time, and I stayed back at home, and maybe I got a normal job. I don't know, like, I just, you know, I just don't know what would have happened. So sometimes when you're making a decision, keep that in mind. Take the route that maybe seems a little bit more risky and adventurous, and you never know what's going to come from that. So, and I guess some of you are wondering, like, what happened with my anxiety and depression? I don't have any depression at all these days. In fact, I am the opposite. Like, if you know me, I'm the opposite of a depressed human. If you ask me like how happy I was, I respond always like 10 out of 10, 12 out of 10, just super, super happy and grateful for everything in my life right now. And so those days are behind me. The anxiety will come and go like here and there, but it's just like normal anxiety. It's nothing crazy. And yeah, I hope you guys got something out of this story. Maybe something you guys can relate to, or something you guys can connect with, or something you guys might be inspired to kind of do yourself, and maybe just kind of take this story as an example of, there's a saying, it says, you usually regret the things you don't do, not the things that you do. You usually regret the things that you don't do. So if you're thinking about moving to a third world country, if you're thinking about moving across your country, if you're thinking about moving to Europe, if you're thinking about doing something in your life, just go test it out. Trust me, because if you do it for a year and you don't like it, and then you end up coming back home or wherever you're from, you're gonna have that 1 year of growth. Like you're gonna come back like a stronger version of yourself, knowing more about yourself and realizing more about yourself. You're gonna come back a different human. Like, I feel like a different human. Every country I go to, all these people I meet, every experience that I go through, I feel like a different human after it all, every single time. Every single time I feel like I'm growing, every month, every year. And I think that's so, so, so important and not to be underestimated. Let me know what you guys think. If you guys took anything out of it, if you made it this far, like I said, give me a fuck yes, and then just write whatever your thoughts are. Give me some comments, anything you guys write. I am responding to everyone, so at this point in my channel I am. As it grows, like I said, I'm not sure if I will be, but thanks for watching this whole thing. If you guys are around here, you guys are true troopers, and I'll see you next time.